Hey everyone, and welcome to lesson 4 of chapter 6, where we'll be wrapping up this monster of a chapter. So I know that I've spit out a ton of information over the past 3 lessons. Now I just wanted to take a second to kind of tie it all together and give you an overarching strategy of how I think you should employ all of this on the campaign. So just to take a step back here for a second, lesson 1, 2, and 3 we have over here: owned media, earned media, and social media. So really what we did through those lessons was describe each one of these types of media, talk about the pros and cons of each, and then give you tips on how to get the most effort or the most effective use of each one of those media on your campaign. So now what I'd like to do is give my recommendations of which one of those pieces you should use and which one of those you should not, and then the best way to incorporate all of those together. So for example, in like lesson 1, owned media, where we also talked about paid ads, we talked about like radio ads. I don't think that you should do radio ads. So I wanted to describe that for you. I wanted to give you the best tips of if you do radio ads, how to best use them, but that's not part of my recommended strategy. So here we're giving my recommended strategy on how to tie all of this together. So let's jump into it right now. So I've divided everything up from the last 3 lessons. You can see we have owned and paid media, which we talked about in lesson 1, earned media, which we talked about in lesson 2, and social media, which we talked about in lesson 3. And these are the elements from each that I think should be incorporated into your campaign. So let's just go through the list here. I know it looks daunting when you look at it right now, but with the help of a communications chair, all of this stuff is very manageable. So let's start with owned media. And basically that's a website and one that includes a blog and a Facebook page. So we talked about in previous lessons how to get those set up. Those are elements that I definitely think you need to include in your campaign. A website, and make sure that has a blog in it, because the next piece of the strategy that I recommend for you, having a blog, is critical to that. So a website with a blog, and then a Facebook page. And remember we said page previously. It's not your regular Facebook account. It's an actual page that you create as a political candidate, as like a public figure. Second, paid media. So these are advertisements essentially. So one is a lit drop piece. So you recall we talked about that. That's like a flyer essentially. And this is something that you would hand out if you were doing in-person campaign events or if you were campaigning door to door. You have to have something to leave behind with people if you're doing door to door campaigning. Second is a mailer. This is like a lit drop, but it gets sent in the mail to people. I'm recommending that you do one mailer and that you do it right before the election, so that it hits people's mailboxes on like the Saturday and or Monday, ideally Monday, before the Tuesday election. Mailers can be very expensive, and people end up spending a lot of their campaign budget on mailers. And I think it's a bit old-fashioned now and not the best bang for your buck. But with that said, there is value to having like one physical thing in voters' homes that has your name on it and can remind them. So then the rest of the paid media is Facebook video ads and YouTube video ads, which we talked about extensively in previous lessons. So you can see here that in terms of paid media, where you'll be spending a huge chunk of your campaign budget, I'm recommending a small chunk on paper assets, meaning like one lit drop piece. Depending on the size of your campaign, maybe you have like 2,500 of them printed, whatever. And then one mailer that goes out to likely voters to in like GOTV, get out the vote efforts. And we'll be talking more about GOTV in chapter 8, I believe. And then the rest of the budget, like everything else that you can spend on media is going to go to Facebook video ads and YouTube video ads. So the overarching theory there is that you are getting in front of voters digitally throughout the whole campaign cycle. They're seeing your face, they're seeing your message, they're seeing your face, they're seeing your message, your name, your face, your name, your message, like a lot. And because you can do it very targeted. And then right before the election, they get a physical piece of paper that has your name on it, and so it's just that last reminder. Maybe they can even take it with them to the poll. Okay, so that's owned and paid media, and then earned media is what we talked about previously. It's press releases and it's press conferences. So for press releases, I want you to send them out at the campaign kickoff, of course, and then anytime you gain major endorsements, whether that is individuals or organizations, send out for those, send out a press release for those. And then a couple other ideas would be for policy proposals. Maybe you come up with a really great idea how to address something that's ailing your community, like homelessness or drug abuse or economic development has been stagnant, and you have come up with this great plan. You send out a press release touting this new plan. Proposed initiatives, it'd be the same thing, but rather than just being purely a policy proposal like a bill or a piece of legislation that you want to introduce, a proposed initiative would be something that's more like community-based, community feeling. So if you say, I've thought through this initiative, it will be called, Everybody's Smiling 2020, with the goal of making sure that dental hygiene in our area is pristine by 2020. I'm really reaching here for examples, aren't I? And then that proposal is that you are working with like the California Dental Association and the Association of Local Dentists in your area, along with local schools, to make sure that kids are getting like dental hygiene checkups, and it's this whole like collaborative effort. That would be more like an initiative as opposed to just a bill idea or like a piece of legislation that you would want to push to address a problem in your community once you're elected. So then for number 2, for press conferences, so it's kind of along the same lines as sending out a press release, but I would recommend doing it for like policy proposals, proposed initiatives like we just talked about, and then any kind of big turning points in your race. So maybe something has really been dominating the headlines in this local initiative, and then there's a big, huge piece of news about it, and you need to respond to it, and you think it's a good opportunity to get your face out there, get your name out there, and you think people are going to respond well to it. You think reporters are going to be interested in it. And then at that point, you could have a press conference to talk about that. I didn't put like campaign kickoff or major endorsements on here because that's not the kind of thing where you hold a press conference to talk about. For the campaign kickoff, you have a big kickoff party, and of course you notify the press about that. You send out a media advisory about that, like we spoke about in lesson 2, media advisory. But it's not a press conference. Same thing with like major endorsements. If your local mayor endorses your candidacy for city council or supervisor or something, you're not going to get up behind a podium and make a bunch of people take time out of their day to come listen to you tout the endorsement of your mayor. It doesn't look right. It looks a little too self-serving and just trying way too hard. Okay, so then social media, the third chunk here, is what we talked about in the last section: a Facebook page and a Snapchat account. You have to excuse me again, guys, for the cough. I'm still getting over this sickness. So we'll spend the rest of this lesson focusing on this last chunk, a Facebook page and a Snapchat account. And really, this is a strategy that I'm going to outline for you that most social media marketers and startups today, or small businesses that make their money by marketing via social media, this is a strategy that they use to gain huge followerships and to get their products out there in front of people, get their name out there. And it's a free strategy, and it seemed to me I learn about this as I have created small startups and social media marketing based startups. And it seems to work perfectly for, or a perfect opportunity for political candidates as well. So let's talk about it. So I'm calling it media coverage for free-ish. So the way this is intended to drive greater followership on social media platforms and to get more people to ultimately volunteer in your campaign or give money to your campaign or come out and vote for you. That's a big idea. So let me walk you through how this process works. So you'll see here it starts with Snapchat. Up here in the top left corner, you can see it starts with Snapchat. So I'd encourage you to snap throughout the day when you're working on, anything, everything that we talked about in that section on Snapchat. So you're snapping about like community events you're going to, policy proposals that you're passionate about, talking about your ideas for your district and your vision for the future of governance and community in your community. And then at the end of the day, you save your Snapchat story. Basically, you just go to the screen where the stories are and you can see there's an option to download your story. And so all of the snaps that you recorded that day in your story are saved to your phone. So you have like that 24-hour block that's saved to your phone, and it just looks like one continuous video. And you'll want to do that every day at the same time. So that saves it down to your phone on your campaign cell phone that you've gotten for your campaign, as we've talked about previously. Then once you have that Snapchat story saved to your phone, then you're going to upload it to like a Google Drive. And there's ways that you can set this up so that this happens automatically, so that you don't even need to go in and upload it. You save your story to your phone, and then it automatically syncs to a Google Drive account or like a Google Photos account, which is embedded in Google Drive. You can do all of this to where you don't have to do anything except hit save in Snapchat. So what happens is that video ends up being in your Google Drive. And then at that point, you have hopefully an intern, but it might be you, it might be your communications chair or whomever, goes through and they look at, hopefully they're able to do this every day, if not every couple of days. But they go through, let's assume that this is happening every day. They look at your Snapchat story and they go through and cut it up using like free video software that I know every MacBook comes with iMovie, and I'm sure that other types of laptop computers or other types of computers come with free video editing software that's pretty powerful. So they go through and cut out anything out of that Snapchat story that you don't want to live on forever. So it could be like you do something like you're like throwing a ball to your dog, and it was kind of funny at the time, but now you're like, okay, that's stupid. We don't ever want to see that again. It wasn't anything bad, but like it can go to the trash can now. So you cut out those pieces that just don't really have longevity anymore. Leave some of the fun, silly stuff in there. You get it, and then you edit that down into just one video. So what that ends up being is a day in the life of you, as told through your video diary of sorts. Your Snapchat story becomes like a daily video diary. And then you upload that into the blog on your website, which that's why I told you need to have a blog on your website. So this would be like a day in the life. That's what I recommend calling your blog, something along those lines. So you create a new post for every Snapchat story video that you have that is put together by your intern. If it's only happening every like 3 days, then you can just, instead of calling it like, like June 27th, you call it like June 24th through June 27th, whatever. And then in that blog posting, you write the highlights from that video and like key things that you talked about, key takeaway messages. Maybe it takes you 5 minutes to jot down what's in there. And then you have this really great like video diary. So when people, and then after, when you post that day in the life blog, then you share it to your Facebook as well. There's really easy like link, copy and paste from your, whether it's a Squarespace website that you created or a Wix website that you created. Either way, there's super easy tools and functionality built in that to allow you to share it straight to your Facebook page. And then your Facebook page is generating content. It's generating these videos and these blog postings that people can see and interact with. So that's already generating a lot of content, a lot of good content. And then you also take that video, and you can do this, or maybe your campaign manager or your maybe your political advisor, or political chair, but somebody that's a little more senior in the campaign has a better feel for the campaign than your average intern. And they look through those videos, and I've said like mine for gold. So they're looking for those little tidbits that really shine, where you are talking about something that you're particularly passionate about, and your message is really just delivered flawlessly in that moment. Or maybe you're engaging with someone in the community and you happen to record it on Snapchat, and it's like a really beautiful moment for whatever reason. But you look for those little, like I said, like mine for gold. Look for those really amazing little spots. And then you can cut out that chunk of video. Maybe it's like 30 seconds. That's probably ideal timing, 30 seconds to 1 minute. And maybe if it's something a little more serious, you can push it out to like 2 minutes. But the idea is it's supposed to be like a really great nugget. And then that's the sort of thing that you can push out. You see here I have like a Twitter logo and a Facebook logo, but these are the kind of things that you can put out on social media that really get a lot of traction, and make sure, follow the same guidelines as we talked about previously, where you have like a really great headline, and make sure that it's well lit, the chunk of video that you pull out of there. And that's why it's so important to have really great lighting and everything when you're recording your Snapchats throughout the day, because they're going to be repurposed. That's the whole point of this overarching strategy, is repurposing these things. And then I've also included like a www and then a little like email icon, because you can also take these like little nuggets, these mined for gold nuggets, and put them like on your the front page of your website, or include it in an email out to supporters, and you can do a million different things with these video chunks. So that's the overarching strategy, and you'll notice that all of these tools are free for the most part. I mean, if you have an intern doing it, maybe it's a paid staffer that ends up doing it. That might cost you some money, but Snapchat is free. Uploading that content to Google Drive or like Google Photos, those are free tools. You're using free video editing software to do it. The blog is on your website that you're already paying for, which is really cheap to host too. And then pushing it out there like on Facebook or other social media platforms or on your website, this is all stuff that you're already paying for, or that is completely free. So that's how you can gain a lot more coverage and push traffic to your Facebook page. So I hope that is understandable. I know that there's kind of a lot going on in this chart. For those of you that are a little more social media savvy, maybe you already know about this, or it clicks a little bit faster. If there are some of you that are struggling to understand how this process would work, ask me in the comments. I can explain it a little bit more. Obviously, there's some details here about uploading it, like getting the Google Photos and Google Drive set up, but I mean, it's really not. I'm not the right person to walk through all that stuff, because it is really easy, and I don't want to take up your time here in a political strategy course talking about that. And you can literally Google it, and there's 100,000 videos that walk you through how to do it exactly. And so that's all pretty straightforward. If you have any questions, put it in the comments. But that wraps it up for chapter 6. I know that this is a monster and you're gonna have a million questions. So happy to talk about any of these aspects with you guys. So we'll look forward to seeing you in chapter 7, and see you then.